Nous reprenons.
The public session is back. So we'll start with Mr. Bolio's motion. You have the floor. Thank you. The proposal that given some information broadcast October 13th by CBC revealing new violations on the Official Languages Act by the RCMP, the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, that the Commission should receive RCMP Commissioner Mike Jem to discuss the plan to be in keeping with the Official Languages Act and respect the French language. They revealed that they were hiring unilingual francophones, and I don't take French language courses, so it's a flagrant violation of the Official Languages Act done by the federal police. It's not the first time. In 2016, the commissioner announced that there were 16,000 positions requiring English, and there were only 19 positions requiring French. And a bit later, the Official Languages Commissioner announced that out of the 21,134 positions for the regular members of the RCMP, 100% were non-essential French. A part is bilingual, but there are no positions where it's French essential. So there's a degradation in police training. In the past, could be carried out in one language or the other. Since 2019, it's being done only in English or in a bilingual format. As Stephanie Chouinard said, every time it's bilingual training, it places francophones at a disadvantage. There is quite a lengthy list. The access to information requests in French are handled more slowly. Recently, the commissioner blamed the RCMP and PEI because the warnings about dangerous climate conditions were only translated into French 4 hours later, and that raises an issue even with public safety. So I think it's quite important to receive the RCMP commissioner. Mr. Godin, does he have something to say? Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with my colleague from the Bloc Québécois in relation to the motion that was tabled. I think October 18th, we have to amend this. I would also like to add the Minister of Public Safety as part of the amendment. You mean latest November 8th? Is that realistic or otherwise? So latest November 8th. And also the Minister for Public Safety, because once again, well, I would let you get into the time frame. I think it's important to have somebody that's in the field and that is that has the power in the Canadian government to give instructions and that would get down to the field. Maybe I suggested things for I propose to correct October 18th, to take out a date and replace it with November 8th, and after the comma, Mike GM, add as well as the Minister of Public Safety. So that would be my amendment. On the amendment, Mr. Godin. Thank you, Chair. First of all, I agree with Mr. Bolio's motion. We all agree. No, we're talking about Mr. Godin's amendment. As far as the date, I don't know if the 8th, the clerk can tell us if the 8th is too early. The only worry I have with Mr. Godin's proposal, there seems to be some sort of pattern with each motion we have here. We invite the minister, I think it's a committee's will to, we would like to invite ministers to come to all our meetings, all our motions, but I don't think it's realistic. This motion is quite clear. We're talking about Mike DeHime, inviting him from the RCMP. I think that's quite important. So I agree with changing the date to November the 8th. But this habit of always inviting ministers to come here, maybe we can meet them here and see. Point of order, Mr. Chair. Point of order. Go ahead. Because my colleague is talking about habits, supposed habits we have in the committee. Let's stick to the amendment. I asked for an amendment, the date, and just to add Minister of Safety. Mr. Godon, I think I can continue hearing what Mr. Beer has. He made a comment about the Treasury Board. I think we can balance things out. But if we want to have a 0% cream in the milk, I think that's for everybody. I don't think that's the issue here. I think there's a lot of grease all around. The amendment is the two. If I understand, there are two amendments. We can add the minister. I just wanted to see if it's necessary at this point. Before listening to what the RCMP has to say, I agree with the motion making this change. I just wanted to point out, is it really necessary to add to the motion the minister? Because we can do that in every motion, and we really want to hear what the commissioner has to say. And I think with the plan we've already approved for the session, there is a tight date, so I just want to make sure that November 8th is not an issue. If we want to add the minister every time, it would take a lot of time. So we want to listen to the commissioner. I want to hear from the commissioner. Thank you. I think for the next speakers, Mr. Godin's amendment and Mr. Bolio's motion, it's in two steps, but it's actually the same amendment. So the single amendment is that by November 8th, we would modify, we would add the Minister for Public Safety. So, Madam Ashton, Mr. Bolio first, Ms. Ashton next. Well, it's necessary. The adoption was late, so it's somewhat of a moot point. The idea of inviting the Minister of Public Safety, I think that's quite relevant, because the RPNC is under the jurisdiction. This has been going on for a long time. I don't know how much. So if there is pressure, changes will come about. The clerk, I hear all your comments on this. Please, just some discipline, friends. But I'm being told that we can split this amendment in two. I just want some consensus, Ms. Ashton and Mr. Yakono. So quickly, I support the amendment. I think it's reasonable, beyond the fact that it has a ministerial responsibility to manage the RCMP one way or the other. Secondly, we know that the Minister for Public Safety is a Francophone from the Maritimes, where the Commissioner's report was quite troubling, and some of the notices or warnings relating to recent storms, I think that's an issue. So it would be interesting to hear the new minister and see how we can raise this very important issue. Thank you, Mr. Yakono, and then Mr. Drone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't understand the scope, the objective. It's important to have the commissioner and the staff to come and give us some more details instead of simply going straight to the minister and raising that issue. I don't think the minister necessarily has all the answers. The staff would give us some better answers. I think it would be better for us to hear from the commissioners people, and then we can ask questions of the minister. I think it's somewhat a hurried process inviting the minister. I don't think we will have enough details and information, enough explanations on what went wrong. I would like to have more staff, people that can answer these questions, explain the whys. It's not just about having the minister there to ask him questions. He might not necessarily be aware of everything. I'm not saying he's not aware of things, but departmental staff are better equipped to guide us, and we can hear their questions or answers and go to the minister. Mr. Sanson, then when I'm good with Monsieur Drouin, thank you. Sometimes we have discussions in the background. I don't know if the minister will be available in 2 weeks. I know what the opposition does. If he's not there, we'll say he's in violation of the motion. So we don't know. We're caught up. I don't have his timetable in front of me. Oh, we would have to invite Stephen Blaney. It's not just yesterday. As Mr. Bolio said, bilingualism issues with the RCMP. This doesn't go back to 24 hours, 48 hours, or the story in the newspaper. This has been going on for several years. So if this committee really wants to get into an in-depth story, we would have to invite a lot of people. So with the flexibility within the committee, I think we should give the commissioner a deadline. Everybody agreed on that. Just have some more flexibility as far as the Minister of Public Safety, because right now I have no idea. Nobody told us about this before. Normally, if we had some earlier discussions, we would know, yes, we would invite the minister, would negotiate a date, maybe not November 8th, the week after, 1st December, just to have more flexibility. I'm not a minister, and I have a full program. My agenda is full. Here it says 8 November. It says November 8th. So it's sort of a half proposal, half amendment. I'm waiting. Okay, I would just like to hear what the others have to say. Well, let's listen to our other colleagues on that point, and we'll try to come up with something. Well, Mr. Chair, in my amendment, November 8th is attached to Mr. Mike Dupree, comma, as well as the Minister of Public Safety. I don't have any date there. I understand the issue with his agenda. If he wants to invite everybody, fine. Well, you had said that it was November 8th. That was the insinuation. I would give the floor to people who raised their hand, Mr. Sanson and Ms. Goodwich. Mr. Sanson. I understand that we would have to add this before the vote takes place. I'm wondering, maybe we have to change the motion, make it more reasonable. It's not obvious that the Minister for Public Safety can come before the 8th. We should see him if possible, but I don't think we can expect him to be here by the 8th. I think we have to run through the motion again if we want to have the minister. Mr. Godin, even if he want to do it, he cannot modify his own amendment to Mr. Bollier, Ms. Goodrich. Thank you. Well, we'll be discussing this, but I think it's time to put this motion to a vote. I think it's a very important motion, and I think Canadians want to have an answer. Now, before going to vote, just to make sure that the clerk understands everything, do we agree that latest November 8th, we hear the commissioner? And then is there a possible date for the minister? Would you agree with that around the table? Microphone, please. I just want to say that the Minister for Public Safety can come when his schedule allows it. To go on the Terry. First of all, the meaning of my amendment goes along the same lines as you. Madam Goodwich asked for a vote. I think we should put this issue to a vote. I exercise my privilege as chair. Could we do this unanimously? It would be much faster. So, Mr. Sere, I would like to hear you on that. I just want to have this in writing. I want to make sure that it's we don't have the date with the ministers. If there is no date in relation to the minister, we're fine. I think we're all in agreement. So I propose to the committee that we invite the commissioner at Mr. Godin's amendment. Is there unanimous consent to invite the commissioner latest 8 November, and the clerk says that's possible. And then we will look into a possible date with the minister based on his agenda. Do you agree with that? Is that fine? Microphone, please. Let's say before December. Would that be possible? Would the time frame be too short? So, Mr. Godin, go ahead. Well, I think my amendment was along those lines, but we have to frame it. We have to have a time frame. We have to protect ourselves. You can say January 15th if you want, but we can't drag this on up till the next election.
If the next person doesn't sort it out, we'll vote. Just in terms of procedure, we're having negotiations here. I'm still not sure what's going on. Mr. Bollier has just brought up a whole other date. So if we get something in writing, it's fine. But we have a motion. We now have a motion and a sub-amendment that doesn't provide a date for the minister. Now people are saying they do want a date, but there is no date. And the sub-amendment doesn't contain a date. I don't get it, because now people are throwing out dates like November 8th, but not November 8th. I can't follow. So I say we get rid of the sub-amendment. We vote to bring the commissioner in on November 8th. And then if Mr. Godin wants to hear from the minister, he should move a whole other motion. Because just to remind him, he has the right to move a motion in line with this RCMP motion. He wouldn't have to do a notice of motion because the two are related. He can move a motion right now on TV while everyone is watching us on the most popular TV show after Tout le monde en parle. Basically, I'd just like to see what we're voting on. We have a sub-amendment. I will read it as Mr. Godin moved it. The amendment reads as follows. And Mr. Beaulieu and Mr. Godin, make sure I'm explaining your thought right. That, pursuant to Standing Order 1083, and taking into account the Radio-Canada reports last Tuesday, which revealed new violations of the Official Languages Act within the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, the committee hear from the RCMP Commissioner, Mike Duhem, no later than November 8th, 2023, and invite the Minister of Public Safety to discuss the RCMP's plan to comply with the Official Languages Act and respect the French language. That is the motion as amended by Mr. Godin. I have read it out. If we still aren't agreed, I really think we should vote based on what Ms. Goodridge has already requested. Ms. Ashton, over to you. I just wanted to clarify. Are we voting on the sub-amendment? There's just one amendment. It came from Mr. Godin. Okay. I would also like to add a timeline referring to the month of December. I don't want this to drag into the new year. I am ready to move a sub-amendment in that regard, but at the same time, I would prefer to vote on the motion as amended so that we can get this done with. Okay, Ms. Goodridge has already requested a vote. No one seems to be agreed. I think we need to vote. Unless you can say what we have agreed on, okay, then let's do a vote. Madam Clerk, over to you. We are voting on the motion moved by Mr. Godin.
En faveur. En faveur.
Monsieur Iacono.
En faveur.
Madame Kayabaga.
Oui.
Monsieur Sanson.
En faveur.
Monsieur Serré.
En faveur.
Monsieur Dalton.
Oui.
Monsieur Généreux.
Il y a assez d'ambiguïté dans le
Oui.
Monsieur Godin.
Oui, Madame la greffière.
Madame Goodridge.
Oui.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Oui.
Madame Ashton.
Oui.
11 pour, contre 0.
11 yeas, 0 nays. Okay, passed with by unanimous vote. I guess there's more agreement than I thought there was. So that was the amendment to Mr. Beaulieu's motion. It is now passed. We will now vote on the main motion of Mr. Beaulieu as amended. Mr. Godin, I call for a vote. Is there unanimous consent to proceed with Mr. Beaulieu's motion? Is anyone opposed? No? Okay, we have unanimous consent. Should we not be spending 10 or 15 more minutes on the next motion?
Non, moi, je dois quitter aussi maintenant.
I also need to go.
De toute façon, tout le monde est d'accord, c'est une formalité.
Est-ce qu'on prend la chance de prendre une seconde avec M. Généreux, voir si c'est possible de faire ça par consentement unanime?
So we'll see if Mr. Genereux's motion can be done through unanimous consent. 2 minutes? Mr. Genereux, over to you. Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to table the notice of motion regarding CBC Podcast's decision that the committee report to the House its deep condemnation of a... No, Mr. Genereux, just to make sure, you are moving this motion? Okay, I'm moving it. That the committee report to the House its deep condemnation of the CBC using a Paris-based audio studio to record a podcast, choosing it over a Quebec-based recording studio to avoid the Quebec accent. Considering that this may have offended many Quebecers, the committee invite the following individuals to provide testimony on this matter: Catherine Tate, CEO of CBC; Cecile Fernandez, executive producer of CBC Podcasts; Émilie Brazeau-Béliveau, CBC Radio-Canada's first head of advertising, marketing, and radio and audio public relations; as well as the Minister of Official Languages. Mr. Chair, I will be brief. This whole thing has been completely unacceptable. We are a country that has 2 official languages, and our Quebec accent or our French language or the various dialects of French in Canada seems to have been shunned due to issues of stated lack of comprehension. We need to showcase our accents abroad. I'll stop there, but this really shows a flagrant lack of respect for Quebec, French Canadian, and Francophile society. I could speak about this issue for a long time, but because we're running out of time, I'm going to stop there. Thank you. Mr. Beaulieu, over to you. I am in favor, and I would like to call for a vote. Do we have are we allowed to call for votes? We'll hear from Mr. Serret, then Ms. Ashton. I'd like to thank Mr. Généreux for that motion. We entirely agree with him. The one thing, if we want to get this done quickly, is that I take some issue with the last sentence as well as the Minister of Official Languages. The Minister of Official Languages is already coming next week. We're also hearing from the Heritage Minister and the Treasury Board President. So at that point, we will already have an opportunity to ask questions to the Minister of Official Languages. So again, we do agree with this motion. And we're fine with hearing from CBC Radio-Canada staff who will be able to explain the decisions they made. But we don't want to just haul in the minister for every motion, especially when he'll already be coming in. So I would suggest that Mr. Généreux take out the reference to the minister, and then we will be able to pass this right away. Are you moving an amendment? Yeah, because the minister is already coming. Okay, so we have an amendment. Look, some of us need to leave. We have Ms. Ashton followed by Godin, Drouin, Sampson. All agree to approve? I'm fine taking out the reference to the minister, given that he's already coming next week. And then later, maybe we can ask the minister to come in for a 2-hour period. Okay. I really do need to stick to the speakers list. We are debating the amendment of Mr. Serret. Ms. Ashton. I support the motion as written. I find it stunning that Radio-Canada did what they did. Franco-Manitobans also have our own accent. I don't know what could have led to this. And do we want to hear from the minister? Yes, the minister is already coming to speak to the committee, but he'll be speaking to different issues at that meeting. So I support the motion as originally written. We are debating the amendment. I feel like we're not going to get consensus on the amendment. Mr. Godin? Chair? We're being accused of hauling in the minister with every motion, but it's our job to ask questions to people who represent the government, and those people are ministers. That's the system. I don't know why the other side doesn't want ministers to come in. I think it is important to have the Minister of Official Languages, the person who is in charge of ensuring respect for language laws, be it on his own account or via the Minister of Canadian Heritage. Well, he's the one in charge, so I think that the Minister of Official Languages should be brought in to discuss this issue. I'm sure the other side has some suggestions about ways to work with the minister's schedule. And yeah, we are hearing from the minister, but it's an entirely different issue. I'm not going to be walked over as a parliamentarian. we'll only have a few minutes during the coming meeting to ask questions to the minister. So if we don't bring in the minister a second time, we will fail to be responsible and rigorous parliamentarians. Regarding the amendment. Next speaker. Yes, we are debating the amendment of Mr. Saray. Yeah, sure, the minister will be here next week. So I don't understand why the opposition are so insistent. And again, there's QP every single day. If they really want to ask questions to the minister, they can go through their leader, and they have a chance to raise up in the House any day they want. And again, inaudible for the interpreter. Point of order. Our colleague is discussing procedures outside the committee. We are in the committee right now. We need to talk about committee procedure. Yes, Mr. Drouin was speaking quite generally, but he was indeed speaking to the amendment. That was quite clear. He wants you to take advantage of the minister's first appearance to ask questions. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it was in line with the amendment. Mr. Drouin, you have the floor. Mr. Iacono? Look, it's 6:42 p.m. Some of us need to leave. I have another committee starting in just half an hour. I think we've gone far enough on this question. Yeah, we only gave consensus for 2 or 3 extra minutes. We've already been spending 10 minutes on this. Okay, Mr. Sampson, you have the floor. Well, that's what I'm saying. I move to adjourn. Sorry, Mr. Drouin, were you finished? Well, I had something else to say. If the Minister of Official Languages is making the day-to-day decisions for CBC Radio-Canada, well, I have a big issue with that. But that's not what happens. That's not what our government does. That's not what the Conservatives did. That's not what the Bloc would do were they in power. Ministers don't make day-to-day decisions for the public broadcaster. The Minister of Official Languages is not in charge of CBC Radio-Canada. We approve the budget for CBC Radio-Canada. They make their own decisions. It is a non-political body. It is not governed by politicians. Frustrating as that may be, politicians aren't the ones to decide whether or not CBC Radio-Canada made the wrong choice. If we want to ask about their decisions, we can bring them before the committee. If we want to hold a broader study, then sure, we could invite the Minister of Canadian Heritage. But the Minister of Official Languages has nothing to do with this. You could ask the minister how much time he spends at CBC. He'll say no time at all. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sampson. Once again, I move to adjourn because we agreed to go overtime just a few minutes in order to finish up with this motion. We've spent 15 minutes overtime. We've gone beyond the time we set out for ourselves, so I move to adjourn. All right, you have every right to move to adjourn when you have the floor, so we'll vote. Do we have, or unless there's unanimous consent, do we have unanimous consent? No? Okay, we'll hold a vote in that case. Madam Clerk, over to you. The motion is as follows, that the committee do now adjourn.
En faveur.
Monsieur Iacono. Madame Kayabaga.
Pour.
Monsieur Sanson.
Faveur.
Monsieur Serré.
Faveur.
Monsieur Dalton.
C'est toi qui avais fait là.
Monsieur Généreux.
Ouais, je dois partir, c'est
Monsieur
vrai.
Godin.
OK, un instant pour la greffière, un instant.
Madame Goodridge.
Contre.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Contre.
Madame Ashton.
Contre.
5 pour, contre 6.
5 yeas, 6 nays. The motion is defeated. One moment.
Qui était sur la motion.
Donc, sur la... OK. C'est des gens, juste vous rappeler que c'est des gens qui doivent partir.
Just again, people need to leave. I can't keep you in the room. I actually also have to leave sooner or later. But again, if we have quorum, we have quorum. On the speaking list, We have Ms. Goodrich followed by Mr. Dalton. We are discussing the amendment moved by Mr. Saray. Ms. Goodrich, you have the floor. Thank you, Chair. Our system is based on ministerial accountability. So I think I'll need to vote against this amendment and vote in favor of the original motion moved by my colleague, Mr. Genereux. We don't need to have a long conversation about this. The issue is clear, and we know the positions of both sides. So I suggest we vote on the amendment.
Monsieur Dalton, allez-y.
Mr. Dalton, you have the floor. Okay. So we recognize that the minister is coming next week. Now, perhaps were we to add some time, because this is an important topic, then we would be fine with that. The minister could then say, if he wants to say it, it's not my responsibility. I have heard what you've had to say, but on our end, it's important to ask questions to the minister.
Il n'y a pas d'autres interventions.
No one else is on the speaking list. As such, we will move to a vote on the amendment of Mr. Saray. Madam Clerk, over to you.
L'amendement de M. Serré?
The amendment of Mr. Saray, which was to remove... Again, I'm... Over to you, Madam Clerk.
Qui est comme suit.
The vote is on the amendment of Mr. Saray, which is as follows: to remove the following, as well as the Minister of Official Languages. So we are voting to get rid of this phrase.
Vote sur l'amendement.
So yes, we are voting on the amendment. Go ahead.
Drouin.
En faveur.
Monsieur Iacono.
Pour.
Madame Kayabaga. Pour. Monsieur Sanson.
D'accord.
Monsieur Serré.
Pour.
Monsieur Dalton.
Contre.
Monsieur Généreux.
Contre.
Monsieur Godin.
Contre.
Madame Goodridge.
Contre.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Contre.
Madame Ashton.
Contre.
6 contre.
6 nays, 5 yeas. Amendment defeated. We will now return back to the main motion moved by Mr. Généreux. Anyone want to debate the motion as not amended? Okay. Look, this is my job, Mr. Généreux. I'm sorry to have to inform you. We'll now hold a vote on the main motion. Madam Clerk, over to you. The motion of Mr. Généreux.
Monsieur Iacono.
En faveur.
Madame Kayabaga.
En faveur.
Monsieur Sanson.
En faveur.
Monsieur Serré.
En
Monsieur,
faveur.
Monsieur Dalton. Monsieur Généreux.
Yes.
Monsieur Godin.
Je suis pas sûr, Madame la greffière, mais je pense que je vais voter pour.
Madame Goodridge.
Oui.
Monsieur Beaulieu.
Oui, je le veux.
Madame Ashton.
Oui.
11 pour, contre.
11 years, 0 no. So it's unanimous. Thank you. So I immediately adjourn the meeting. So see you next Monday.
Et merci tout le monde.